I mean, you just had romances with everybody. Let's get right
Not
to
everybody.
it. Oh,
Not everybody.
just the good-looking ones. Let's start.
Naturally.
Yeah.
Did you know that Tom Sizemore's sexual addiction was actually diagnosed as a medical condition? Or that Clint Eastwood had over 28 confirmed relationships in the space of a few years? Well, you're in luck, because we'll be taking a look at the top 30 sex addicts in Hollywood history. Without further ado, let's dive into the list, which is in no particular order. Let's begin.
Why you play yourself in the face with some of this?
First on our list is screenwriter and scriptwriter Barbara Lamar. Lamar was a famous silent film star who enthralled viewers with her captivating beauty, unrivaled personality, and diverse skill. Like many other people on this list, Lamar's sexual addiction was never properly identified because of the prevailing views at the time about what constitutes sex. Despite rumors that Lamar had 5 marriages, it was never quite established if Jack Lytle, her first husband, was truly her spouse. Sadly, he passed away within 3 weeks of getting married. Lupe Velez, 1908 to 1944, was a Mexican actress and dancer who achieved fame in Hollywood during the golden age of cinema. Known for her vivacious personality, she starred in numerous films, showcasing her talent and contributing to the cultural diversity of early Hollywood. Though Velez met great professional success for much of her career, the actress known as the Mexican Spitfire was plagued by a tumultuous personal life. She was linked to Clark Gable, Charlie Chaplin, Errol Flynn, and Gary Cooper, who she shot at, you'll recall, and many more men during her life. Unlike many leading ladies, Hayworth was naturally shy, keeping her stormy personal life largely under wraps. Alcoholism and a tendency towards domineering personalities created an incredibly tough home life for the starlet. No matter whether she married film directors or crown princes, her marriages tended to end in shouting matches and protracted court battles. One relationship blended into another as she would end marriages and enter new legal entanglements while still working out the details of the previous separation. All those marriages makes you wonder where she was looking for love, or just a tangle with a new man, while still keeping an appearance of modesty. Her appearances on reality TV shows, like Sex Rehab with Dr. Drew, should have clued us in. Sex Rehab was a show primarily centered around helping celebrities to overcome and work through their sex addictions and come out better for it in the end. It was probably not the best idea to televise the celebrities' journeys, but beggars can't be choosers, except when you're Carrie-Anne Panice. The actress refused to comply with the set rules of the show and questioned their methods of rehabilitating, and was removed from the show as a result. However, she did eventually get rehab from a proper institution, albeit for a different addiction this time. Tom Sizemore, born November 29, 1961, is an American actor known for his intense performances in films such as Saving Private Ryan and Black Hawk Down, albeit his career has also faced personal and legal challenges. One of those challenges being his addiction to all things vulgar. Sizemore's sex addiction actually comes with a medical term, priapsem. Doctors say that this is caused by years of alcohol and drug abuse. The result? Tom can have sex 9 times without stopping. He's in the midst of a massive depression, but he's making tremendous progress, his manager has said. Throughout her life, Turner was involved in a number of partnerships, including 8 marriages, one to the same man twice, if you can believe it. She had numerous extramarital affairs both during and between these marriages. Frank Sinatra, one of her several boyfriends, reportedly told the Daily Mail that at times it was all she could think about. She looked uninterested in anything but going to bed, he remarked. She would not interact with me if I tried to strike up a conversation. Global occurrences, ignore it. She was clearly not interested in my family life and didn't want to discuss movies, her work, or mine. She was just interested in having sex with me as frequently as possible. Marion Davies, 1897-1961, was an American actress, philanthropist, and producer known for her comedic talents during the silent film era. Despite her successful career, her legacy was sometimes overshadowed by her association with newspaper magnate William Randolph Hearst. Speaking of which, word on the street is that Hearst and the infamous Charlie Chaplin were both seeing Davies at the same time, and Hearst was not thrilled about it. Seems Davies couldn't be satisfied with her newspaper lover. Davies was Hearst's longtime mistress, as Mrs. Hearst, his estranged wife, would not consent to a divorce without a sizable cash payout. Though they never married, the comedian was always number one in Hearst's heart. Hearst liked to remind people of this by flying into a jealous rage over Davies from time to time. No one is exactly sure how the confrontation between Chaplin and Hearst played out, but we do know that it ended in the death of director William Ince, which no one was ever tried for. The official cause of death was listed as a heart condition. The exact story remains unknown to this day. This next one's a bit controversial. It's Fatty Arbuckle. Roscoe Fatty Arbuckle, 1887-1933, was a silent film comedian and director. His career plummeted after a scandalous trial in 1921, tarnishing his reputation despite being acquitted. Arbuckle's contributions to early cinema were overshadowed by controversy. On September 5, 1921, the funny man and some friends rented 3 hotel rooms for a night of partying and debauchery. By the end of the night, Virginia Rapp, an aspiring actress, was dead. Though evidence has proven that Fatty hadn't really touched the woman outside of casual contact, the papers, led by Hearst, ran with the story. Before long, it was printed that Arbuckle had raped the late Ms. Rapp with a Coca-Cola bottle in a violent attack. Though the evidence leaned strongly in Arbuckle's favor, he endured 3 trials as the media's accusations grew more and more extreme. Though the 3rd trial ended with not only an acquittal but an apology from the jury, Arbuckle's career was ruined. Arbuckle sold all his riches to pay court fees and couldn't find meaningful work for the rest of his life. Louise Brooks, the highly regarded actress and dancer, will be discussed next. She was a free woman in many ways, including who she slept with. She acknowledged that she was a sexually liberated woman who was willing to explore new avenues both inside and outside of the bedroom. This added to her innate adultery and contributed to the numerous liaisons she had inside and outside of her 2 marriages. Concerns about Brooks' sexuality also existed. Her assertion that she was neither a lesbian nor bisexual, despite having several relationships with women, was unwavering. Even if you are unfamiliar with his name, you will undoubtedly recognize a few of the movies he has appeared in. Wall Street, Basic Instinct, and Fatal Attraction are just a handful of the films in which Douglas has given outstanding performances. In addition to establishing him as a respectable actor, Douglas's performances have had the unintended side effect of casting him in the public's perception as a sex addict. The actor's 2 marriages, the second to 25-year-old Catherine Zeta-Jones, and the hypersexual roles he portrayed in films such as Basic Instinct and Fatal Attraction, all contribute to the perpetuation of this idea. Even though the public's perception of Mike hasn't improved as a clean guy overall, he wouldn't be on this list based just on hearsay. During his first marriage to Diandra Luca, Michael Douglas reportedly checked himself into a sex addiction hospital for rehab, thereby starting the trend for all of Hollywood. You'll be startled to learn that this guy has slept with not 1, not 2, but 3 persons on this list, if you were unsure whether or not he should be on it. Some even claim he succeeded in bagging the legendary Monroe. Controversies, affiliations with prominent people, and turbulent relationships, the latter partly because of his excessive sex drive, interspersed Sinatra's life. Sinatra was unable to contain his emotions. Sinatra had an insatiable craving for sex, particularly in 3 dimensions. Nancy Barbato, his former spouse, stated that she knew where his heart was, and therefore she was willing to put up with his adultery. Everything changed abruptly when the well-known singer began lusting after Ava Gardner's skirts. Safe to say, they divorced shortly after. Hope you can handle the heat. Our next on the list is known for being extra spicy. Her series of 8 marriages drew the public eye far more than her philanthropic efforts, or her acting for that matter, ever did. She was able to impart such numbers in part due to how early she started. A sheltered, innocent life in Bond Street, London, and a series of home schooling had instilled the idea that marriage and love came hand in hand, and as such, whoever she married, she would love. This theme led to a lot of her marriages and a lot of divorces. Her first marriage, her first husband, Conrad Hilton Jr., at 18 years old. She quickly divorced him after being exposed to his more violent tendencies and moved on to her next husband, Michael Wilding, just 1 year later. She also divorced him. However, it's with her third marriage and onwards that her addictions and excesses started to play a role. What followed was a series of weddings to men who she cheated on the previous husband in the line with. Jane Mansfield had many jobs in her life: an actress, a model, a nightclub entertainer, a model, an esteemed member of the Playboy. The list goes on. However, Mansfield was known more as her role as a sex symbol in the Hollywood at the time than she was as an actor. With her voluptuous figure, she, along with Marilyn Monroe, Betty Grable, and Mamie Van Doren, pioneered the dumb blonde aesthetic that prevailed in Hollywood for a long time afterwards. For one thing, the actress was addicted to a lot of different things. Alcohol and narcotics were major players in this, but so also was the seldom talked about in that era sex addiction. All 3 of Jane's marriages dissolved in no small part due to a series of numerous extramarital affairs. Now, Monroe's been known all over for a lot of things. Her image has changed and evolved over time from a sex symbol to the 1950s America, a pioneer for the dumb blonde aesthetic, and a delectable actress in her own right. Unfortunately, Monroe also struggled with sex addiction alongside her illustrious career. It is well known that Monroe has had many sexual partners. However, it is less known that she was actually molested and sexually abused as a child. This incident unfortunately acted as a stepping stone that opened the doors towards sexual addiction for her. She bravely spoke publicly about her condition when asked, and talked about how she has struggled with the consequences of her actions. Monroe's case of addiction really expands on the idea of sexual addiction not as a desire for sex in itself, but as a longing for intimacy and the use of sex to take the place of that intimacy, as opposed to love and strong, long-lasting relationships. Over the years, Monroe had multiple sexual partners, but when looking at all of them through this lens, it is no wonder that she never bore any children with any of them. Though some might say it wasn't in the cards for her, it's clear to see that she would not bear children, while still struggling with her addiction to sex. 1940s A-lister Jean Tierney had a series of affairs during her life that made her look like a sexual Forrest Gump. She is purported to have had gone to bed with John F. Kennedy, Howard Hughes, and actor Tyrone Power. She was first married to fashion designer Oleg Cassini and then married oilman W. Howard Lee shortly after he divorced actress Hedy Lamarr. Though Tierney led a glamorous lifestyle early on, she also suffered from bipolar disorder, which resulted in ugly mood swings and ultimately led to her being committed. In 1953, at the urging of Humphrey Bogart, Tierney sought treatment. The treatment didn't exactly go well. Tierney attempted to flee an asylum after being subjected to over 2 dozen shock treatments. Cooper has stiff competition for biggest womanizer in Hollywood history, but the fact that Gary is rumored to have hooked up with every one of his co-stars, including fellow list members Clara Bow and Lupe Velez, puts him pretty high in the running. He famously began an affair with Marlene Dietrich while dating Velez, igniting a nasty feud between the two actresses. Velez insisted upon being on set with Cooper and Dietrich at all times, and even tried to shoot him once she felt her suspicions were confirmed. Cooper continued to bed his co-stars, including Tallulah Bankhead, who famously said, "The only reason I went to Hollywood was to fuck that divine Gary Cooper." While many of the women on this list were chewed up and spit out by the tabloids or the studios, the press painted Cooper as a reformed, admired member of society, even though he continued to have affairs. Perhaps his scummiest moment came when at 47 he bedded his 21-year-old co-star, Patricia Neal, and insisted she have an abortion. No, that didn't hurt his career either. Throughout his career, Beatty's personal life and relationships often made headlines, adding to his enigmatic persona. The actor famously made the claim that he slept with a new woman every day, from when he was 20 till he married Annette Bening at the ripe old age of 55. From this claim, this would mean that he allegedly slept with over 10,000 women throughout this period. Despite occasional controversies, his contributions to cinema and commitment to storytelling remain unparalleled. Beyond his musical achievements, Benet faced public scrutiny due to his highly publicized marriage to actress Halle Berry, which ended in divorce in 2005. Which brings us neatly over to his reason for being on this list. The divorce between the two caused such a massive uproar in the entertainment world. At the time before the divorce was announced, Benet came out publicly and stated that he had cheated on his wife, and it was due to an addiction to humping, as the singer put it. He proceeded to check himself into a sex addiction rehab center for about a month to show Halle he was serious about remaining committed to the relationship. Despite his best efforts, the divorce still went through, and both parties have long since moved on from each other. As the story goes now, Bennett simply went to the sex rehab center to fulfill all of righteousness and improve his chances of getting Halle Berry to forgive him. He says what he had was not a sex addiction, but an isolated event. Throughout his career, Eastwood's dedication to storytelling and exploration of complex themes resonated with audiences worldwide. Despite occasional controversies, his impact on cinema remains profound, establishing him as a revered figure in the industry. Eastwood's enduring career and artistic contributions solidify his place as an icon in Hollywood history, celebrated for his remarkable talent and cinematic achievements. All his contributions to Hollywood serve to paint a picture of Clint as this all-round guy, but that all does a complete 180 in his personal life and his relationships. Eastwood was a staunch sex addict, amassing up to over 28 confirmed relationships and an assortment of 8 children within all those. Though we are continually surprised when another actress goes into a downward spiral after a failed attempt to change their image, such stories are nothing new. Linda Darnell had a solid career as a squeaky clean starlet in the 40s. She made some attempts at a more overtly sexual image. Sound familiar? And things went south from there. In the midst of her attempts at reinvention, Darnell's business manager embezzled her life savings and left her flat. Darnell dove into a dark period marked by alcoholism and 3 failed marriages. Darnell was known as one of Hollywood's most eligible bachelorettes when she wasn't married. She was rumored to have been involved with scores of men, including Howard Hughes and Joseph L. Mankiewicz. Though Darnell continued an active romantic life, her career began to fade. Bouts of depression marked her final years until she died in a house fire reportedly caused by falling asleep with a lit cigarette in hand in 1965. After a rough childhood, Crawford set out to take Hollywood any way she could, which often meant using her feminine wiles to procure better roles and more close-ups. Crawford had relationships with Douglas Fairbanks Jr., Clark Gable, Spencer Tracy, and scores of other less famous Hollywood types during her life. There was another far less glamorous chapter in Crawford's fame. In 1978, one of Crawford's adopted children, Christina, penned Mommy Dearest, a scathing appraisal of her mother as a vicious, abusive alcoholic. Some highlights from the book include the revelation that Christina was required to call her mother's endless string of paramours uncle, and that Joan once tore into Christine for using wire coat hangers instead of high-end padded hangers. The book, as well as the accounts of those close to her, painted her as an intensely jealous, aging actress who often sabotaged her younger counterparts and was given to egotistical fits. You know what they say? Be an accessory to murder once, shame on me. Be an accessory to murder twice. Either Mabel Normand had a habit of ending up in the wrong place at the wrong time, or being around her at all was being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Normand was a wildly successful comedienne, a peer with Fatty Arbuckle and Charlie Chaplin both on and off camera. The director, writer and producer also shared Arbuckle and Chaplin's taste for trouble. Though no one was charged in the 1922 death of filmmaker William Desmond Taylor, there is a theory that Taylor tried to take action against Normand's coke dealer and caught lead. 2 years later, Normand was chilling with friend Edna Purviance and oil tycoon Cortlandt Dines. Purviance's chauffeur believed Edna to be in trouble and shot Dines dead with Normand's gun. Though Normand was cleared of criminal charges in both cases, a combination of these scandals and persistent bouts of tuberculosis led to Normand's retirement at the age of 37. You know the phrase "in like Flynn"? Yeah, this dude was Flynn. The rakish charmer, best remembered as the original tights-wearing Robin Hood, had the kind of boyish good looks that could help you get away with anything. Scratch that. It turns out he could get away with almost anything. But first, a little background. Flynn started out using his charms for no good early on. He was expelled numerous times from school, including once for bedding a laundress. Fame only fueled his taste for booze and women. Once he hit the big time, he snuck around on his wife like it was his job. The MGM PR department had that on lock, though, even going as far as to have Flynn pen an essay on Hollywood morality. Flynn was ultimately too much of a bad boy for even the best in the PR game. Things started to go downhill for Flynn, and fast, in the 1940s. He slapped a gossip columnist, began taking mysterious trips to Mexico, and developed an alleged taste for underage girls. A trial for 2 counts of statutory rape didn't stop Flynn. He beat the charges, though the evidence looks pretty grim. Who continued to debauch himself so much that he is rumored to have been unfit for military service due to his raging alcoholism and collection of venereal diseases. She was also something of a legend in other aspects as well. Joan had a whopping 5 husbands to her name. Her first husband she divorced due to an attempted rape on her. Her next relationship, however, was to famous promiscuous actor Warren Beatty. We'll be seeing him in a bit. Unsurprisingly, she left him due to charges of infidelity. All other of her marriages were divorced due to charges of infidelity on one or both parties. Beyond her acting achievements, Collins delved into writing, penning best-selling novels and memoirs. Her embodiment of timeless elegance and her unwavering commitment to her craft cemented her as a celebrated Hollywood star, leaving an indelible legacy as an emblem of grace, talent, and enduring style in the world of entertainment. Her talent and fearlessness in tackling controversial roles defined her career. It's not hard to see how someone with such an extroverted and uninhibited lifestyle would fall prey to such addictions as the one we're talking about today. Though, of course, once again, during her time, it was not really viewed as such. Thankfully, we don't need to scrounge for details that hinted at her addiction. The actress was very open about her exploits. Bankhead had had so many affairs that she once famously complained about going too long without one, during a rare and momentary dry spell for her being the flamboyant person she was. Tallulah threw many parties, and if sources are to be believed, she answered a good number of them in nothing but a smile. Her sexual exploits weren't limited to men either. Many of the women in her life also similarly had relationships with Bankhead. Her PA, actress Patsy Kelly, confirmed the two had a sexual relationship while she was under her wing. Tallulah herself did not like using the word lesbian, however, and preferred to call herself ambisextrous. Beyond her theatrical prowess, her charisma and unabashed individuality left an indelible mark on entertainment history, forever immortalizing her as an enigmatic and unconventional Hollywood star. George Reeves portrayed Superman on TV back in the 50s. Though Superman can only be bested by kryptonite, hot lead proved to be Reeves's undoing. Getting shot doesn't necessarily make you a bad boy, but if you catch a bullet after leaving your mob-connected mistress for a crazy tabloid sensation, we'll count it. Not too long before his death, Reeves abandoned his longtime mistress Toni Mannix, who was married to MGM executive Eddie Mannix. He then became engaged to notorious party girl Leonore Lemon, who was known to be volatile, like shoot guns around the house for no reason volatile. It turns out the Eddie was MGM's fixer, who made problems go away, like end up in a ditch go away. And rumor has it he didn't mind so much if you slept with his wife, just so long as you didn't make her mad. Reeves' death was ruled a suicide, but the investigation was marked by dubious circumstances. Lemon entered the house while it was a crime scene. Reeves's autopsy was botched, and the eyewitnesses were unreliable. Part of the problem was that between Eddie, Toni, Leonore, and their various associates, there were just too many suspects. According to an article from The Hairpin, Beau, like many other famous women of her era, considered her ties with the men in her life, the majority of whom she most likely had close relationships with, to be engagements. Beau was also at the center of other scandals, including as the well-publicized claim that she had relationships with every member of the USC football team. Her secretary also took personal documents from her, and she tried to use these records as leverage by accusing her of being inebriated all the time and of other transgressions. Married to an older man by 16 and posing nude by the time she was 17, her teenage exploits were enough to make any Disney star turned spring breaker blush. It turns out her early activities were just a warm-up for her later exploits. When Harlow was only 21 years old, her 43-year-old husband was found sprawled in front of a mirror, drenched in Harlow's perfume with a bullet through his head. Harlow was cleared of any involvement, and unlike most stars of early Hollywood who got involved in scandal, Harlow's fame only grew after her husband's death. Some go as far as to credit Harlow for keeping MGM afloat during the Great Depression. There have been a lot of womanizers in Hollywood history, but rarely have they been a match for Clark Gable. As one author put it, Clark Gable was married 5 times, slept with nearly all of his co-stars, and cheated on everyone. Womanizing was a part of Gable's career from the very beginning. He started acting in Portland, Oregon as the result of a dalliance when young Mr. Gable hooked up with theater manager 17 years his senior. This started a sugar mama trend with Gable, who quickly realized that there were a number of women out there who would pay all of his bills for him. Living on the dime of his female admirers, Gable rose to fame and a contract with MGM, which only served to increase his lustful appetite. He was so brazenly sexual with Joan Crawford that MGM threatened to exercise the morality clause in his and her contract if they couldn't maintain decorum as they snuck around with each other. He went on to hook up with former child star Loretta Young and impregnate her, much to the chagrin of the MGM brass. Note that neither of these women were his wives, and by time he was done with Young, he was also finishing up with wife number 2. Despite Gable's reputation, women lined up for him throughout his life. As Doris Day put it, he was as masculine as any man I've ever known, and as much a little boy as a grown man could be. It was this combination that had such a devastating effect on women. In 1924, he died, supposedly of a heart attack, but in decidedly mysterious circumstances, during a birthday party in his honor aboard the yacht Oneida, belonging to William Hearst, the newspaper magnate. The party guest list included Charlie Chaplin, film actress and Hearst mistress Marion Davies, and gossip columnist Luella Parsons. Ince and Hearst were in the middle of tense business negotiations, and Chaplin was said to be romantically interested in Davies, a rumor of which Hearst was painfully aware. So the atmosphere aboard the yacht was not calm. Prohibition was in full swing, but bootleg liquor was available on board Hearst's yacht, and large quantities of it were consumed. Many speculate that Ince was involved in the love triangle between Davies, Chaplin, and Hearst. Others saying perhaps he also made a pass at Davies. So that's our list of the top 30 sex addicts in old Hollywood history. Did you know a few of these too old for you? Or are you an expert in the old Hollywood scene? Let us know down in the comments. If you liked this video, you'll love the one showing on your screen. Click now, and we'll see you in the next one.